Hey, everybody. This is Jocelyn McElderry, better known as the Connection Specialist, coming to share with you our sugar fast journey. I thank each and every one of you that have joined us and decided to be a part of this amazing journey because it is truly amazing. In addition to all the other fasts that we have going on, I made a decision last year that at the beginning of this year, I was going to do the sugar fast again. I have done it before, I've lost some weight with it. Of course, things happen and you end up gaining the weight back, all that kind of stuff, all of the above. So I decided to do it again. And I decided to do it with a book called The 40-Day Sugar Fast with Wendy Speak, where she parallels our walk with God and our sugar addiction. And she helps us really pull things together and understand it just a wee bit better. So we're doing day 2 and 3 together. Last night we had storms, and Spectrum was not trying to allow me to be great. And for anyone that lives in the country and Spectrum is all that you have in that area, we're praying for some AT&T fiber or some Google fiber. That's what we're praying for as we release the sugar from our bodies because we need another option. Okay, that's a whole different soapbox. So, on day 2, I pray that everybody had a good day and that the headaches and the other things that go along with sugar detoxing is slowly but surely getting better. But one of the things that she talks about in day 2 is she talks about taking an honest look at where you are and where God is in relation to you. And immediately my first thing was, what they got to do with sugar? But what I realized as I continue to read, was that what do you turn to instead of God? I haven't always been a sugar eater, a sugar consumer like I have become over time. I hadn't always been like that. And so I came to realize that I was actually beginning to use sugar, be it ice cream, be it a candy bar, be it a donut twist, a fresh donut twist. Okay, let me come back. Um all of those things didn't really start to be something that I wanted until later on in life when I started realizing there were some things that I needed to deal with. So what would happen? There was a time that shopping was my thing. Well, I realized that my budget can't handle shopping like that, but I can eat some of these other things that supposedly is going to make me feel better because something was going on in my life. So instead of turning to God, I turned to sugar because I wanted that immediate gratification and that immediate rush to feel better. And one of the things that she said that was so powerful to me was, unfortunately, our free will allows us to wander from the one who promised never to wander from us. So there were times that I chose to eat sugar when I really should have prayed. There were times that I chose to eat that pound cake when I really should have just sought God and cast my cares upon Him so that I could get past this thing and not do a thing that was detrimental to my body. Because we don't even realize it, but sugar can really be detrimental to your body. And I'm going to talk about some of that as well as we go through this fast. Some of the physical things that can happen to us as it relates to us using all this sugar, eating all this sugar, drinking all this sugar. Because one of the things that I've noticed is a lot of people, when they go to Starbucks, they get those fancy, I call them foo-foo drinks. And the foo-foo drinks got sugar in them. All that stuff they put in there has sugar in it, which is what makes it addictive. And people be People go there every morning, paying $7 and $8 and $9 for some sugar that's ultimately over the years going to be a detriment to them. So, why is it that we can't turn to God even in those times that we decide that we need a sugar fix? She got me with that one. On page 34, pay attention to Nehemiah's prayer. It was really, really powerful, so much so that I wrote it down because I'm a writer. I remember things better by writing. So I wrote it down in one of my journals so that I could keep up with it and know, this is something I need to do. I need to pray these things. Now, as we continue on this journey, know that your body is detoxing. It's detoxing from something that you've been giving it. It's detoxing from something. Yeah, we got to do better. We got to get off the sugar. You're right. And I know what it's like to be a sugar addict. So I made a decision that sugar was going to be my fast for the first part of the year. Because one of the things that I've noticed too is I can do Daniel fast. But baby, just as soon as day 21 and a half came along, I went and had the biggest meal ever, but the dessert was the best part of the meal. Right? So that means I needed to change my whole lifestyle when it came to sugar. I realized that doing without meat was easier for me than doing without sugar. So the Daniel fast had gotten to a point that it didn't cause the pain and lead me to the rock like it should have. But that's sugar. I can live without a piece of meat. But baby, I might not eat a piece of meat. But sugar, I love me some apple pie crust with ice cream. I will cook a whole apple pie, and it's got to be Mrs. Smith's because the crust got to be a certain kind of crust, and eat just the crust. I throw the apples away. Don't judge me. Don't judge me. I throw the apples away, but I eat that apple taste on the crust with some ice cream. The whole crust with ice cream. How ridiculous is that? I will skip a meal so that I can eat the apple pie crust with ice cream. That's a sugar addict too. That's a sugar addiction as well. Because I'm waiting for Food Line to put the Mrs. Smith apple pies on sale, twofer, and buy up several and put them in the freezer. And I might have them all eaten before the month is out with ice cream. Now, mind you, I threw the apples away. Don't judge me. I ain't eat that part. I just ate the apple taste on the crust with the ice cream. That's ridiculous. So I came to realize that I needed to do something a little bit different. And I needed to get myself to a place where sugar no longer had a hold on me. And that I could go into the grocery store and come out without something that was processed sugar in my cart, in my bag, or whatever. So Wendy speaks. What she does is she parallels our walk with God with this sugar addiction. Y'all, that can cut you because she talks about, you literally would choose sugar over God. When I first read this and she started talking about it, I was like, wait, ma'am, that ain't how that go. That is really not what I'm doing. But the time that I was eating that apple pie crust with ice cream was a time that I could have been praying. That time when I was eating that apple pie crust with that ice cream was a time that I could have been encouraging someone else. I could have been doing something for the kingdom instead of destroying my body with this sugar, processed sugar, in my mind, trying to make it natural. And it's not. Okay. Your body is detoxing as you do this fast. So that means the physiological reality is likely intensifying your emotions as well. And what happens is, my friend and I were talking today, And we had a whole thing. I said, "Well, I'm gonna come to your house tomorrow, and there's a not that bakery that you've been trying to get me to go to. We're gonna go by there, and I'm gonna pick you up something." And I'm going, and then mid sentence, we both were like, "Dang, we can't do that. We're on the sugar fast." But do you see how quick the thought came to us? But then how quick we were able to rectify it and not do what we were trying, mess up what we were trying to do. Simply because that's what the enemy does. Even when you're on the Daniel fast, you can you can be fine when you leave home. But as you're driving down the street, you might see Smithfield's Chicken and Barbecue, and you say, "You know what? I need to go by there and pick up some chicken and take it home for the family." No, no. We doing the Daniel fast. Why are you looking at the chicken place? Right? It's it's a psychological thing in your mind that makes you do that. You've been fine all day as long as you were home. But the minute you left home and you saw Smithfield's Chicken and Barbecue, all of a sudden now you felt like you needed some chicken. And that's how it is, even with sugar. I think about in the summer how you're driving down the road and immediately you think, okay, it's hot outside. We need to go get us one of those slushies or go to Pelicans and get us one of those slush cups. But when you were home, you weren't even think about that. And that's pure sugar poured over some ice, processed sugar. So in day three, Wendy goes in and she starts talking about the walls of Jericho. When the Israelites walked around the walls of Jericho as instructed, and the walls came tumbling down. It was that's the kind of life that we're living now with our sugar. We are literally walking around our sugar addictions, the walls that we have placed up with this sugar addiction. And we're expecting those walls to crumble as we continue to stay away from the sugar. The other thing that can become very sobering is you reading food labels, and not just the stuff that's in the little square, that tells you the calories, that tells you you got 2 grams of sugar. No, read down further into the ingredients. And one of the ingredients in so many things is high fructose corn syrup. I'm convinced that they use that in just about everything. And if you're not careful, you will be consuming crazy amounts of sugar and you won't even realize it. That's one of the problems with giving children cereal. A lot of the cereals have a lot of high fructose corn syrup in it. They have a lot of sugars that now you're feeding your children. That's why we need to go back to cooking breakfast if we can. I know that that can be difficult because it gives you more fresh options versus giving your children processed sugars. That's why they love the cereal, because it's sweet and it gives them a boost. And that's why they jumping all over the place. And then you send them to school and the teacher say they won't sit in their seat. They won't sit in their seat a lot of times because they're full of sugar. Then you give them these yogurt sticks or different things like that. Check all the labels. Check all the labels on everything that you give to kids, because that's one of the problems with our children. They sugar addicts, just like the parents. So once again, in day three, she started talking about the walls of Jericho coming down. And she said, the same God who saves also speaks. So listen, as you're on this sugar fast, as you pray and listen to God, He's going to speak to you just like He does when you do the Daniel fast. We're doing nothing different. We're just taking sugar out of the diet. And we need God for that, because sugar comes so easy for us. Even when it comes to something as simple as chewing gum, I've learned to make sure that I look and get sugar free gum, because I tend to chew gum. I like to chew gum when I work out. So I had to make sure that I was getting sugar-free gum. But they still got some stuff in there that we really don't need. But we're not going to try to cure everything all at one time, because then things become overwhelming and we quit. We're not created to do multiple things at one time. And let me cure y'all of something else. There's no such thing as multitasking. Our brain can only process a thought at a time. That's for the people in the back that listen to these people that say you need to multitask. You can't. Because if you multitasking, what happens is you focus on one thing and then you start thinking about that second thing. That means you think less about the first thing, a little about the second thing. And then you try to do the third thing. And then that first thing never gets accomplished because you're focusing on the second and the third thing. We're not wired to do three things at one time. We're not wired like that. So don't believe the multitasking lie. It is a lie. We cannot do it because your brain is not wired that way and you're not supposed to function like that. We're supposed to be able to function as a well-oiled machine, and the well-oiled machine is to focus on one thing at a time, accomplish that task, move to the next one. Multitasking is really not the truth. As much as people try to use it, it's a lie. Don't listen. They lying to you. So anyway, she gave us 5 takeaways from the crumbled walls of Jericho that can help you on your journey from slavery to freedom, from the slavery of sugar addiction to the freedom of I cut that out. So now I don't have to have that. One of the things in North Carolina that is a grip on most North Carolinians, and when we travel other places, we have a horrible problem with it, and that's sweet tea. Girl, sir, the sweet tea in North Carolina will give you diabetes, which is why so many of us love it. I've gotten to a point that I make it a practice because liquids in a restaurant cost so much. I drink water. I just can't see paying $3 for a glass of tea. You can go buy a whole jug of tea in the store. It's almost like alcohol. Why you gonna go to the bar and pay $14 per drink if you can go to the ABC store? Well, we don't want to be drinking it all because we're Christian, but it's the principle. Sweet tea is an addiction. When McDonald's first started doing sweet tea and put it on the dollar menu, there were people that went to McDonald's and still is. Go to McDonald's every single day and get that 32-ounce sweet tea every day. They drink a 32-ounce sweet tea every day, but don't drink 2 8-ounce cups of water. 90% of you is made of water. We need to drink water. Instead of getting the sweet tea at McDonald's, let's get some water. Carry some water with you everywhere you go. You'll get tired of carrying it and eventually you'll drink it. Now, Wendy speaks. We're going to go back to her 5 takeaways on day 3. Paralleling the Jericho walls coming down and the people going from slavery to freedom to us going from sugar addiction to freedom. Believe that this place is holy. Plant your feet on the solid ground of faith. Believe that your body, that is the temple of the Holy Spirit, deserves to be healthy. And since this place needs to be holy, I needed to work to the best of its ability, right? So we're going to stop all this sugar intake that we're doing. That was number 1. Ask him to tell you his plan for you. God has great plans for each and every one of us. And when we do things that are detrimental to our body, it can actually keep us from running the race that God is placing before us. We don't want to be groggy. We don't want to be dragging. We want to be able to run the race with fervor and run with the fire of the Holy Spirit that's in us. We don't want to be bogged down with trying to get a sugar fix. Number 3, listen to the Lord. What is the Lord saying to you about this time of fasting? Taking something that you really enjoy out of your diet so that you can be the best vessel for his use. What is he saying to you about it? Obey When he tells you something about it, obey what he's telling you to do. God created all of us to be well oiled machines. He created our bodies to work well. And we have done things that are detrimental to that work. So, what are we going to do with it? What is it that we need to to pull ourselves into obedience of? How many times has he told you to cut back on that cake, that pie, that ice cream, the cereal that you give those babies? Number 5, shout the victory before the walls fall. Even before we get to day 40, I'm excited about the fact that day 1, day 2, and day 3, I didn't eat any processed sugar. I get excited about that because that's one day closer to my goal. I can imagine that the children of Israel, when they walked around and they got the chance they got around it that third time, they thought, listen, this has become easier because we've done it twice already. So to be sure, we can keep going and do it again until such time that the walls fall down. As many times as God has told us to go around here, we can do this. When they got the fourth time around or the fifth time around, they realized that that thing was really going to come to fruition. It's the same for us. This is day 3 of the sugar fast. We made it to day 3. The symptoms of not having sugar are slowly getting better. And I know that if I go to bed and wake up tomorrow, I'll still be able to resist the sugar. You know, people say, well, I drink coffee every day. Well, maybe this time you need to try some hot tea. And no, don't put sugar in it. Use honey. And don't use whole lot of honey. There are some teas that are available that taste so good that you don't have to have all that sweetener. And don't try to use artificial sweeteners to make it better. Just cold turkey this thing. It's going to be tough the first week or so, but once you get past that first week, you become an aficionado at this thing, and you don't even feel like you need sugar anymore. And we have to pay attention to the hidden sugars. That's the thing that get us. It's not the sugar that you get out of the sugar canister that gets us. It's that hidden sugar that gets us. Paying attention to the labels. And once you start paying attention to the labels for your sugar intake, you'll notice that you'll start paying attention for other things as well. Now you're on a whole different journey. Now you're working towards having the healthiest vessel that God can use. And just remembering that God is faithful, God is strong. If He can keep you through other situations, He can keep you through this sugar fast. One of the things I did was I wanted to look up some of the detriments of sugar. And so I'm going to share that as well as we go along. How many of you have had kids, and children are supposed to go to the dentist between 2 and 3 years old? And you take your 3-year-old to the dentist and they already have a cavity. Why do they already have a cavity? Because they have been consuming sugar, and sugar leads to tooth decay. I know in y'all mind you like, woo, there's a lot of people that must have eaten a lot of sugar. But anyway, I digress. Sugar leads to tooth decay because a lot of us are not as rigid on our toothbrushing regimen and keeping our teeth as we are on consuming the sugar. Do you know that in actuality, we should brush our teeth every time we eat? So imagine if you had brushed the baby's teeth every time he ate some candy or anything, then he or she might not have had a cavity at 3 years old. And it happens. I've actually seen children that were 5 years old and their teeth were rotting down into their gums because they had not had good tooth hygiene and they were allowed to consume large amounts of sugar. One of the reasons that the pediatrician tells you not to let the baby go to bed with a bottle in their mouth is because the milk, that Enfamil, and it's definitely the soybean milks, Prosobi, all those things, they have a lot of sugar in them. because there's a difference between isomil and sugar and Prosobi. One isomil has a lot more sugar than Prosobi does. So some babies, if you give, they're not going to take any soybean. They'll take the first one you gave them. If you allow them to become accustomed to the sugar, then that's the one that they'll continue to take. That's why they tell you don't allow your babies to go to bed with bottles in their mouths, because the milk pools around their teeth, and if they're not hadn't gotten teeth yet, it pools in their mouths where the teeth are going to come from, on their gums, and so they end up having rotten teeth early in their lives, all because of milk. You can't a baby, you can't get them to swish and spit like you might could do an adult. So that is one of the detriments to sugar. It's tooth decay. I don't know about you, but the dentist is not my favorite person. And when I go to the dentist, the last thing I need for them to do at this point in my life is find a cavity that they got to work to fill. Because there's several problems at work here. Number one, I don't like the drill. Number two, I don't like the fee it costs to fill a cavity. And that is not something that insurance covers at 100%. But it's something that you can avoid, so you wouldn't have to pay that. So we have to know that sugar causes tooth decay. So we need to make sure that we're paying attention to the amount of sugar that we intake, and brush our teeth after we eat. Brush the teeth that you want to keep. That's what old folks say. Floss them and brush them, the ones that you would like to keep, so that later on in life, you won't end up with missing teeth because of your sugar intake and your cavities. So continue on the journey to decrease the sugar in your diet. Continue to watch the food labels. You'll find that when you start looking at the food labels, you will be astonished by all of the things that are in it. But specifically right now, we're paying attention to the sugar. Go past the ingredients that's in the box where it says 2 grams and 4 grams and 10 grams. Go past that and read the actual ingredients. High fructose corn syrup. It's a part of a lot of things. And there's another one that's a corn syrup. And if you pay attention, there are some other sugars that are in the label that you don't notice until you actually look at the label. So stick with it. It's not easy, but it's going to be so worth it. Changing the way we do life with this sugar fast is going to help your body become a well-oiled machine, like God intended it for us to be, and like He created us to be. He created us to be well-oiled machines. He did not intend for us to allow things to come along in life, derail us, and mess up this machine that He created for us. Your body is the temple of God. Let's treat it as such. Continue on the sugar fast. Don't become discouraged. Just stay focused and know that there is so much more to this than just taking sugar out of your diet. We are also aligning ourselves with God and the things that we would like for Him to do for us in our lives. When you want grab an apple when you think you want a candy bar. Grab an orange when you think you want a candy bar. So hopefully this is helping you a little bit. I'll see you again tomorrow at 6 p.m. We're going to talk about day 4, and I'm going to talk to you about another detriment of excess sugar intake. Take care. Have a great evening, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.